Welcome to the Soul Fam Podcast. I'm Diana Marquetta, host of the Soul Fam Podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe at the end of this recording. And once again, we are very excited and enthused about welcoming back spiritual psychologist. I don't know if that's the right term for you, JP de Oliveira, and I'm always mispronounce your last name. Please say it again for me.
JP de Oliveira Estevão.
See, so much better when you say it. So JP's been a visitor on the Soul Fam podcast 2 or 3 times now. This will be a third time. Last time we talked about his earlier book. We're going to wrap up this podcast with his new book. So please stay tuned to the end. JP works with clients from all over the world, all over the country. He has his own special blend of psychology and spirituality and humor to help guide us through these very chaotic, tumultuous, and emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually challenging times. And so I asked JP, or I begged JP almost, to come on tonight and talk about how we can navigate these times when we think things are good, just when we're like, okay, we got that over with, something else will pop up. So what are you experiencing with your clients right now? And do you share any particular advice with them about navigating these times?
Well, first of all, it seems that you can't go a day without learning or hearing about something tragic happening in the world. It's been nonstop, and I can't recall. There was in the 90s. There were times where we had months where things were happening, but it was still light and fun. And then I think after 2001, and we're coming on the anniversary of 9/11, there was a shift in the US from you work hard, you play hard, you have a good time, you go out to eat, you hang with your friends, life is good. I feel that the energy has shifted to people are kind of waiting what's going to happen next. There's always that anxiety about what's going to happen next. Maybe because the news have become extremely toxic. There's a lot of promotion of, I would say, rumination. They will say, let's talk. Stay tuned. In a half an hour, we'll let you know who has a gun in your neighborhood, who's gonna shoot you with. It's like it's horrible. Like it's constantly. We live in a very anxiety-producing society, and the social media and the news capitalize on it. They get attention. Though, to be honest, at the beginning of the year, there was a shift where people stopped watching the news because they got so tired of it. A lot of people stopped watching the news, and there was 80,000 people a night watching the news, which is nothing. Like 80,000 people watching it.
Compared to
nothing.
Older numbers or previous numbers, right? And there's
we
a
went from
certain
millions
demographic.
Right. We went from millions to thousands of people because you can only hit somebody over the head with a hammer until they pass out and get tired of it, right? And the news has become this, it's kind of a hammer that keeps hitting you on the head, and it's kind of like keep watching us, we'll keep telling you everything that you should be afraid of, and you'll keep learning and be scared, we'll scare you to death. And so people come back because they want to know. Even I don't watch the news very often, but I still get to hear when things are really important, like what happened this week in Minnesota with a shooting, which is terrible. But on the flip side, I wish as a society would stop talking about the shooter around the clock, and we stop edifying something that's so terrible and turn toward prayer, and also perhaps toward prevention and maybe education, because I feel that it's the worst details are emerging, like the little boy was shot in the back, he was trying to help his friend, things like that, right? And so I'm a
scariest of scary, and it's sort of designed. And listen, my background's as a journalist. My background's in journalism. I have many friends who are highly respected journalists. At the same time, there's this sense of programming that kind of keeps us all in our corners, waiting to see what's going to happen next. What's the next shoe? I don't listen to the news. I don't watch the news. I'm aware of certain aspects of it. I also have a different opinion, which is that we're not asking the right questions anymore, or any questions. There's sort of a design, so to speak, that keeps us in that anxiety-ridden state. Or the other aspect is just kind of, I'll just put my head in the sand and go to the grocery store, and I'm not going to pay attention to that. And there's delays as well.
Well, it's kind of hard to deal with it, to be honest, because the news have become battles of the pundits. It's more editorializing than it is the news. It's not, they don't, we're really far away from Walter Cronkite reading the news
Sure.
with one single camera staring at the audience, maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe with a commercial for Pepsi Cola or Coca Cola or G Electric, whatever, General Electric. Now it's become this show which is stretched out with a lot of commercials, and there's a lot of product placement, and the news have become, because they are selling all the minutes of advertisement to pay for the news, they have to have people come back. If they
Right.
lose 15% or 20% of their audience after a commercial, no bueno.
Right. Exactly.
So
Just like any show.
they
Just like
right,
any television show, movie, whatever it might be. It's a financial model.
right. So it would be amazing if they would do the news in 15 minutes and just tell us the facts and then cut
Mhm.
the bullshit and let the other shows have the commercials. Like, so when you're watching the news and they tell you, oh, you're going to be without, your husband's going to leave you, your dog's going to die, your house is going to burn down, your neighbors are terrorists, the person down at the gas station is crazy, your water is poisoned, your food is contaminated, the air is toxic, and it's constant. It's a barrage of that, constant, constant, constant. So avoiding the news becomes a matter of survival, because
Right.
you can really
Mm.
pollute somebody's mind. And I will say it even goes into politics. If you can create an environment or an atmosphere of fear that's a constant environment, you can control people better, because you get them to
Right.
make decisions that they probably would not make. Because when you relax, your brain is more oxygenated and you tend to make better decisions. But if you're in an environment that's very anxiety producing and you're like fight or flight, fight or flight, fight or flight, and going, am I going to die? Am I going to die? You're more inclined to make decisions that might be extreme, even though there's no real reason why you should.
Right.
That's how you get people
Right.
that have stocked up for food for the next 4 years because they're waiting for Armageddon or the government to come and shoot them down. I have no idea. But you go to some people's house and they have a bunker and they've got food for the next 4 years, 10 years. You can buy a year worth of meals. And then I'm going to talk about, the question was, how do you calm yourselves? There's a method called anchoring,
Hmm.
and they do it in NLP. It's almost like when you have a computer, you buy a computer brand new at the box, you set up a marker on your computer saying, today is a day where my computer has no issues. It's beautiful, no bugs whatsoever.
Oh.
And then 3 months from now, your computer gets a virus. You can do a reboot and reset the operating system back to that moment. It erases everything that's been added to it, but then it's like brand new. And the idea is you pick a moment of your life where you're perfectly happy, where you relax, where you feel good about yourself. Maybe you have a picture of it. Maybe you by the lake. Maybe it's an afternoon at the lake and you're on a canoe and it's been really nice. The temperature is just right. It's a beautiful fall day or maybe spring, and there's a light wind and you can hear the birds and there's echoing of people talking afar, but you're by yourself and you're just maybe on the boat and the boat is not going anywhere, but you're being moved by the water and you relax and the sun touches your skin but doesn't burn you. You feel really good. It's a beautiful day, right? You do a guided visualization every night before you go to bed and you try to remember what that day felt like. You try to remember where you've been, what you did, and whatsoever. So the next time you get into a situation where you get totally dysregulated and things don't go so well, you have that point to go back to and you anchor yourself back into that moment. So maybe you want to take that picture and make that the screensaver on your computer or on your phone. You may want to have a picture on it on the fridge, so that, or maybe if you're in an office, you have a picture of yourself in that environment. So that every time you look at it, you remind yourself what it felt like to be there. And so when you relax, your blood pressure goes down, your heart beats slower, your brain is more oxygenated, all that comes into play. So when you reset yourself to that moment, if you're dysregulated, you might be breathing rapidly, your heart might be pumping a lot, blood flows rapidly, your blood pressure goes up, maybe you have a headache, maybe you're stressed. So when you go back to that point, that anchoring point, you go back to a moment where you are relaxed. So it's almost like you're telling your brain, this is where I want you to be right now.
And then are we telling our bodies that we're in a safe space? I am safe again, or I'm happy again, joyous again, chill again.
Right. You take yourself out of an environment that's hostile.
Right.
And put yourself in an environment that is not hostile. Because when you feel stressed out, like you're having a panic attack or you're stressed out, it's not then that you need to learn the coping skills to get out of it. You got to do it ahead of time. So if you have that tool in your pocket where you know that you can regulate yourself. It will help you when you become upset to use that tool to get back to a baseline where you can function and be comfortable.
So this is called an anchoring tool.
Anchoring tool. Yeah, and they do
Anchoring.
it in NLP,
Very nice.
neuro-linguistic programming. And but anchoring, you can anchor yourself in yoga when you do yoga poses and you're like breathing. And when you're doing meditation, guided visualization, it's a form of grounding. Every time you anchor yourself within yourself and you calm. So if you not in a place where you can do yoga because maybe you're at work and you're in an office or you're in a meeting, having that ability to visualize that moment where you were really at peace and calm helps your body get back there much more easily.
Is that something you do in each of your sessions?
No, not in each and every session. No, sometimes when a person needs it. I mean, not everybody has the same needs.
Exactly.
But talking about the news, every time we watch the news and we hear something terrible happening, we are programming our brains to expect something bad happening. We go on CNN, on Fox, on whatever network, and we look for the bad news of the day. We don't go looking for the good news. We go looking for the bad news because our brain is already knowing it's going to be bad. I wonder who died today. I wonder what tragedy happened. I wonder what the president did today. I wonder what's going on with Congress, with the Senate, with the price. I want to see the inflation. The inflation's probably really high. So we go looking for information. And when the information is not as bad, when it's really bad, it gives us a moment of panic, but also gives us peace. You know why?
Why is that?
That's really bad because that really bad moment, that really bad news that we get prevents us from thinking about something else that could be worse. We're concentrating on this. So it's not great. It's not great at all because we get stressed out about that particular thing, but our brain doesn't start manufacturing more bad news. You're concentrating on that really bad news.
That's
so
interesting.
It's kind of like
it's a bit of a sedative.
It's a bit like I was expecting something bad to happen, something bad has happened, so right now I have a break from something else bad happening. So sometimes it's not always the case, right? Sometimes we get more than one bad thing happening at once. But some people, they have trauma in their life.
Right.
They get over their trauma and then they get in a good place. And when they're in a good place, they struggle with anxiety because they think, I used to be okay and then trauma happened and now I'm okay again. I'm wondering when trauma is going to happen again. So their brain goes in a hyperdrive thinking about the worst case scenario. And funny enough, when bad stuff happens, they're able to function better because they're used to chaos, but they're not used to happiness. Some people are terrified of being calm and happy because every time they get calm and happy, something bad happens.
Or is it because it's such an unfamiliar place to be, and their brain is simply not programmed to accept that as reality or as a kind of reality?
Human beings, 99.9% of human beings on Earth, we have a tendency to make everything that happens near us, in front of us, next to us, about us. So you could see a plane crash.
Right.
And you make it about you because you're witnessing it, right?
Right.
So if you're witnessing or experiencing even other people having traumas around you, you're going to experience it vicariously. You're going to experience it. So every time you watch TV and you watch something really bad, it affects you and it traumatizes you. It is bad for you as well. And every time people talk about something that's happened to them in the past and they have not processed it properly, they're reliving it. And when they relive it, they re-experience the trauma. It's somebody slaps you in the face, hurts like hell, you're upset. But every time you recount it, it amplifies it and you feel the heat of the hand on your face. You feel it again. The same way you can anchor yourself in something positive, people have anchored themselves in something negative.
Right.
Some people have chosen one moment in their life and anchored themselves in that moment, and that's what defines them. That's how they get back to that moment. So if they experience chronic abuse, or they've been one form of abuse over another form of abuse, or one type of trauma over another form of trauma, and they get a compounded post-traumatic stress disorder, where they have many different types of things that are layer on layer on layer, then their brain automatically is going to default to that. Because if you experience something really traumatic, your brain is going to say, I'm not going to let that happen to you again. And so something resembles it, or, smells like it, looks like it, anything like it. And your body goes into full shock going, oh no, I don't want to go there again. And then when you're calm, coming back to that last point, when you're calm, your brain goes, I'm being too happy right now. Things are too okay right now. I wonder what's bad's going to happen next.
Well, it wants that familiar feeling again, whether it's good or bad or ugly or insane or chaotic or beautiful or whatever. It wants what's familiar.
Yeah. And that's why people had such a hard time dating people. If you've dated Mr. Wrong for many years, you could meet many Mr. Right, but you're not going to trust them because you're going to judge Mr. Right with the standards of Mr. Wrong.
My body is not going to respond the same way because my body's physically reacting. I don't think it's just our brains. I think our bodies inherently experience the same thing over and over again as well. So that becomes second nature to me. It feels familiar, it smells familiar, it looks familiar, reminds me of, so then my body falls into line with whatever it is, not just my mind, not just my brain. It's a whole physical experience as well, and energetically as well.
Well, if you are somebody who's been subjected to abuse when you were a child, and your father or mother never touched you, never gave you a hug, never gave you a kiss, but every time you had physical contact with them, they slapped you around, you might equate being slapped around with being loved.
Sure.
That's the only contact you have. So you grow up, you become an adult, and suddenly you go looking for love, and you really want somebody who hugs you and loves you and be intimate with you.
Yeah.
And you feel empty, and then you meet somebody who's really abusive, and there's a cycle of abuse happening. You pissed me off, I hate you, it's your fault, why would you make me do that? And there's a part of you that's going like, he must be loved because he's like, it's unconscious, right? It's not conscious. Right. But coming back to the big subject of society, how do we deal with what's going on around us? Is by starting to name the problem, naming it, and naming your emotions. When you feel anxious, saying, I feel anxious.
Right.
When you're sad, you say, I feel sad. When you're scared, you say, I feel scared. Many people in society are going around not knowing what they're feeling.
Right.
They are not aware of their own feeling. And so you can't really deal with it if you're not aware of it. And so what do? When you're experiencing sadness, but you're not aware you're sad, you're going to self-medicate. Food, alcohol, gambling, overspending, sex, anything to fill that void, so to speak. And if you're really anxious all the time, but you're not wanting, some people think that an anxious presentation is who they are. They think that being anxious they are anxious so often that they don't remember a time when they were not anxious. So the anxiety becomes part of who they are. And so when you tell them, hey, you don't have to be, and then they'll be like, tell me how not to be anxious. Tell me how not to be anxious. I'm like, well, you need to figure out what your triggers are and what triggers your anxiety. And some people are like self-starters. They will make themselves anxious with what they think. So when you can actually put a stop to your thoughts, you can help yourself feel more relaxed, right?
So I have a question about thoughts. So do you talk with your clients, or do you have a feeling about feelings attached to thoughts? And if that sort of almost empowers those thoughts, if it gives it greater strength?
I feel like I talked to somebody today. This morning I talked to someone, and I said, the very scenario you're most afraid of, the one that scares you the most, is actually power. You're anxious right now in this moment for something that has yet to happen, but you're thinking about it so much that right now you're reacting to a potential future that may or may never happen. So essentially you're paying rent for December when we're still in August, right?
Right.
And so the idea is come back to the present and become mindful of your present and become really present in the moment. And tomorrow there could be a war out there. Maybe something bad is going to happen. But right now, in the moment you're in, there is no war or there is no calamity or no problem. So the idea is do an inventory of where you're at in the moment. And then, of course, there are going to be situations where people lost their job and they don't know what's going to happen next week. And so there's a lot of anxiety. But for the bulk of humanity, that are not in transition that way, grounding yourself in that moment becomes a matter of survival, and it's really a matter of I'm going to choose to concentrate on what I'm doing in the now rather than worry about a future that may never come to be.
So what else is it that your clients are really facing now that kind of seems to be a common, there's like
a lot of divorces right now.
Oh, that's interesting.
A lot of people weren't talking to their relatives because of the way they voted. So Democrats aren't talking to Republicans, and Republicans aren't talking to Democrats. So if your parents are Republicans and you're a Democrat and you don't approve of who they voted for, makes family visits awkward, and the holidays are coming up, and so it's like, do I really want to sit across my conservative parents when I am liberal and everything I believe in is everything that is size? A lot of people are afraid of the inflation, and they're afraid of making I don't know who I was talking to, but the generation, the millennial,
most
of them millennial, whatever. a lot of them aren't buying homes or apartments.
Yes.
What they're doing is they are investing in cryptocurrency, and they are
Mhm.
going in the stock market because there's no money. Like the cost of a home is so exorbitant,
Right. No matter
and
where
the
you live,
interest,
by the way.
right, it's gotten really, really stupid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so the interest rates are high. The homes are expensive. We have an artificially inflated market for homes.
Exactly.
Some companies buy all those homes and then they release them slowly, or they put some lipstick on a pig and then try to sell it for what it's not worth. There's a lot of abuse going on. And so young people are like, you know what, screw this. I don't want to buy a house. I'm going to go put my money in the stock market, or I'm going to invest in crypto. But that's really reflecting of a mental state where they don't trust society and they don't trust, you know, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years ago, you could say, I'm going to go get a job, I'm going to get married, I'm going to be living in a relationship, I'm going to buy a house, I may or may not have children. That generation is also smart. They're like, not everybody wants to have kids. And some people had children in the 70s and the 60s and the 80s as a reflex. Oh, we are married now, let's have children. In our society, a lot of time people will have children trying to save their marriage. So here you are drowning, and so here is a newborn. Deal with it. Maybe not the best thing to do if you're struggling in a relationship. Having a child, it used to be more like, it used to be something that older generation used to do, like having kids to try to save their marriage. Now a new generation are like, you know what? Let's open it up and be polyamorous.
Right.
Totally different mindsets, right? Like,
Right.
like,
Polyamorous,
hey, you know what?
no children.
You know what? Let's have a child in the 70s. And you're like, and then 2 years later, the divorce and the child's growing up without a father or mother, or having to go back and forth. But in 2025, it's like, oh, you know, I'm not happy in our relationship. Let's bring 3 more people and see how it's going to work out.
It's
So
kind of the
open up
same answer. We're just finding new answers for the same old problem.
pretty much, yeah.
So are people at a crossroads? Is that kind of what I'm gathering? Is that they're at a crossroads in their lives? They're at a crossroads in their understanding of themselves. Or maybe they're just starting to consider where they are at personally.
I think people are waking up.
They're waking up.
Waking up, yeah. Because from the moment you're born to the moment that you get to be, in society, you're being told if you study hard, work hard, you'll succeed. And it's not the case. Some people work really hard and study really hard, and they don't get anything they were promised. And they feel this is a lie. This is not happening.
Hey.
And because we live in a society that's extremely competitive, and I'm telling people all the time, don't compare yourself to other people. Do not compare yourself to other people. But people, do you think they listen to me? No, they don't. They still compare themselves to other people. And it's hard because, first of all, we care what people think. A lot of people do. We care what people think. And other times we also give too much importance to what other people think of us. And then we look at other people. And generally, when we compare ourselves to people, we don't find the person who has done the least amount of things in their life. We're going to look at someone who's about the same age as us, who's super accomplished. And we're going to go, you and I, this guy is my age and he has $100 million in the bank account. He's ugly as sin, but he's got 5 wives. I want to know why I'm not living that life. Why am I struggling right now, right? And in the US, we don't always, look up to people that we should be looking up to. For example, there are people who are incredible in society, but we don't look up to them as much as, for example, I've had people say to me, what do you think of Elon Musk? Don't you think he's a really great guy? And I'm like, not really. Yes, he has a lot of money, but from a human perspective, who he is as a person, he has the emotional, quotient of a turnip. So no, he might be great in business, but he's terrible at relating to other people. And so the whole idea is society, and I think that they're not believing the lie in the sense that some people were 20, 30 years ago, all they cared about is to do really well for a company, get a job, and retire eventually.
Right.
And people are like, I want to live before I die.
For sure.
Yeah. How many people do you know retire and then the day after they're dead? It happens all the time. Or they get diagnosed with a terrible illness within 6 months of retiring, and you're like, what the hell?
So how do you help them? What do you say to our audience and to the collective in general about understanding that, one, we are going through an enormous amount of change on the planet, within the universe, all of that. This is actually right on schedule. So this is how it's supposed to be. I don't know how the rest of 2025 is going to work out. I have a sense of it, and it's good to brace yourself. But nevertheless, how do you share with them to remain calm, to center themselves, to look within rather than to look on the exterior, when everything is really sort of captivating your attention or calling for your attention, do you encourage people to really step within?
Sometimes I tell them you're right. It's okay for you to be scared. So if you're sitting down on the if you're sitting on a couch and you're watching television and suddenly you have a panic attack when nothing's going on, calm yourself. But if you're in a room full of people and somebody screams, "There's a guy with a gun!" Not time to do yoga at that point. You need to
Yeah.
run for your life and know the difference between those two situations, right? And so right now, I feel like the government and the media have been screaming "fire, fire, fire" inside of a movie theater. And people now, there's two things happening. Some people are scared at everything. Everything terrifies them. And then there's a group of people that are desensitized. They're like,
Yeah.
you keep screaming fire and I don't believe you anymore.
Right. Exactly. I don't see the fire, even if there is a fire. Did you start that fire? So, there's
a distrust. There's a distrust.
Right,
There's a distrust
exactly.
in the government and there's a distrust in the media.
So both of those situations can be very anxiety ridden, nevertheless. So either way, no matter what your perspective is or your opinions might be, that can be very unnerving. Or it can also offer an opportunity to choose new paths. So are you finding that at all?
Yes, that's happening. And and it starts sometime with just changing one habit a day, like looking for one small thing you can make a difference in. So if you're somebody who drinks 3 cups of coffee in the morning and then has 2 monster drinks in the afternoon and then drink alcohol at night, perhaps you want to switch to water. And or if you're somebody who lives 2 hours away from where you work and you're caught in traffic 4 hours a day, maybe you want to move. Or if you're working in a place of work and your boss is a moron who yells at you every day, and you have other options, but I'm saying, verbal abuse at work. I know, like they have HR seminars on sexual harassment and how to talk to one another, but there are some companies out there where clearly it's part of the culture, right? You work in a company and the gossip or the BS is part of the culture. And so it's kind of like lip service.
Right.
And so more and more people are suing their employers. So more and more people are suing. I mean, America is so happy, but there are sometimes they really should be suing because some stuff is egregious, or sometimes they should. The one thing that's funny to me is like, oh, go to HR, go to human resources, they will help you. Human resources, you think resources for human? No, human resources is human as resources for the company.
Interesting.
And so that's why I tell people, I do that all the time in therapy. Make sure you download your emails if somebody's being mean to you and put them on your own computer. Make sure that you document everything and you keep a timeline.
Right.
Make sure it's not on the server that belongs to the company, because if you lose your job, how are you going to retrieve that information? So it's okay to go with the best foot forward and to be positive, but it doesn't hurt to be prepared and to, protect yourself.
So in this crossroads sort of point that many people are at and your clients seem to be at, is there a hesitation to take the next step that is very unlike the previous steps they've taken?
Absolutely. Because a miserable situation that's familiar is always better than in a situation that is unfamiliar. It might be worse, and you don't want to change something. You might be in a relationship that has run its course. Some people even get married. They should not even get married, but they get married and then they realize, this is my miserable life that I'm in. And the parents are like, no, you're married. And they use religion. They go, according to, the 12th books and the 4th line and blah, 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 thou shalt stay married forever, right? And the person's like, I hate that person, but I'm going to make an effort because, we have children and children need to have with their parents. I'm like, no, they're miserable. I believe in marriage. I believe that people who get married and love each other should stay married. But there are people who get married and they're, I don't understand what was going on that day in their life. They got married and it's a mystery. But the point is the transition. So let's say you're married and you're not doing well, and you want to, maybe your job is not satisfying, or maybe you're living in the wrong area, or maybe your marriage is struggling. Doesn't mean that you got to change your job and move and get a new wife or new husband. But sometimes it requires a change, not only of situation, but also a change of perspective.
Right.
How you look at your life.
This is true. Is that often enough to encourage people to take that next step, just to change your perspective? Or does it just change their perspective? Taking a step is a whole other thing.
Well, everything that happens to you is about you. But some people have not received that memo.
Got it.
Some people, like, let's say you have 5 different types of relationships, and all those relationships are not going well.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get along with your family, you don't get along with your spouse, you don't get along with your kids, you don't get along with your boss. When does it start being a you problem and stop being a them problem?
Well, isn't it always a you problem?
When you live in the United States and you're a narcissist, perhaps, but
No,
not
but I mean
everybody's a
it in the
narcissist.
sense that it's a reflection of you. So whatever is happening, if this
Well,
relationship is not necessarily going well, is that a reflection of something within you?
there's a reflection of the choices you've made.
I see.
It doesn't mean that it's a reflection of you, but maybe if you have a tendency to, if you're a people pleaser and you do everything
Right.
to please people, and then people take advantage of you, yeah, they are taking advantage of you for sure, but you recruited them into your life because you wanted to please them. So you got to look at that behavior, why you don't put boundaries, why you're saying it's like, you've been to those staff meeting where somebody says, there's a terrible, there's this one thing or one project nobody wants to work on. And you've got this one guy that raises his hand, I'll do it. And you're like, nobody even asked him, right? He just volunteered himself. And you're like, the tip is, it's okay to want to be ambitious and do well and for people to like you, but people don't generally say thank you to people that volunteer because they don't see, they think, oh, you wanted to do it. That's fine. That's something you really wanted to do. So it's important sometimes to let other people ask you. And then the first thing that should come, the first question you should ask to yourself is when somebody asks you to do something for them is, am I doing something for someone that could do it themselves? Am I enabling them to rely on me? And if yes, why? Why do I want people to rely on me? And if that person is struggling to do this, if I do it for them, am I teaching them how to do it or am I doing it for them?
Okay.
And so you ask those kind of questions. So the idea is like, if you have 5 types of relationship and you're 5 different types of conflict, look at the trigger, look at the similarities. Now, if you're somebody who's minding their business and you meet somebody who's problematic and you allow that person to be in your life and they drive you crazy, at one point you need to ask yourself, why am I allowing somebody who's driving me crazy into my life and my space?
Exactly.
And that's when we come to talk about boundaries. Boundaries are like a nice fence,
Okay.
a gate, right? But
Right.
it's purely decorative. It is a purely decorative fence if you don't have a lock on it, right? So you need to have consequences for your boundaries. If somebody does something that displeases you, you have to have a direct consequence for it. So if somebody says to you, every time you are, don't come to my house without first calling me. Just don't come to my home without calling me. I am very private. I have to prepare myself. And somebody shows up once, shows up twice, shows up 3 times. And every time you're like, don't come to my house without, then at one point you got to say, what's the consequence? The consequence is if you do that one more time, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Or I'm not going to be your friend or something's going to happen, right? But otherwise, it is not really, it's not
really a boundary. It's not really a
it's not really a
fence.
boundary. It's like having a really nice gate around your property, but doesn't lock anybody can come in or go out. So what's the point of having a gate to begin with? It's just stating a preference. So saying, hey, you know what? I really don't like it when you come to my house. What you gonna do about it? Well, nothing, because that's not a boundary. That's just stating that you would rather,
So even in this, I always feel that a boundary is like a simple, that's easy, that's kindergarten, but we're still struggling with having boundaries.
Well, people don't know how to set boundaries in this culture. They struggle really a hard time setting boundaries. They're afraid of being disliked. If I tell so and so that I will be upset if they do this and this will happen, will they still be my friend? And I will take it to the next level. Sometimes we even want to be liked by people we don't like.
Why is that?
Because some people really like being liked and really like being, they don't want to be the bad person and they don't want to be the villain in the story. And they feel like if they speak up or they assert themselves, people will think of them as poorly. And sometimes people might think I'm psychotic because they'll be like, why do you care about somebody you don't care about? Like,
Right.
it's okay, don't go out of your way to hurt them, but why should you care
Right.
about them? And some people care that everybody likes them. They want to be well liked. It's important for them.
So, JP, I know that for me personally, if my physical body starts to feel funky or I feel off center somehow, or I get a funny feeling in my tummy, I know it's not necessarily a violation of my boundaries, but that I need to say something. I need to set something down. How do you help your clients recognize that they even need to set a boundary?
Sometimes set a boundary and sometimes also understand where they begin and where they end and where other people begin. Because sometimes you want to have conversations with people that either have more power than you in the hierarchy or sociopaths who don't care, whatever.
Right.
And so you going to them and having conversation around how their behavior is impacting you negatively is almost counterintuitive because you're going to tell them what's going on and they're going to look at you and go, I don't care, or you're
Right.
nobody to me, or whatever.
Right.
So first of all, when you set a boundary beside a boundary with strangers and normal boundaries. But if you want to set a boundary within a relationship that matters to you, make sure that it is a relationship that you're willing to pause or end
Mm.
should that boundary be crossed, or
Interesting. Wow.
where you have be mindful that if you want a relationship, if you feel like there's a loss of balance or in between you and that person because that person takes advantage of you or disrespects you or does things they shouldn't be doing, if you set a boundary and you don't enforce it, you will look extremely weak. If you say, you know what, if you do this to me, this is what will happen, and the person does it, it's like, what are you gonna do? And nothing happens. That person will think, oh, it's all talk, no actions. And most people, I would say, are the people that fall in the mean, not the highly intellectual, highly emotionally intelligent, or the Cro-Magnon type people, the people
Uh-huh.
right in the middle.
Uh-huh.
Generally, when they like someone, when they love someone, they want that person to love them back. So
Mhm.
if somebody that you love comes tell you the way you behaved, I felt sad, I felt vulnerable, I felt invalidated, your average person's gonna go, oh, you know what, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel this way, or whatever. The highly intelligent or highly sensitive person might go, I'm so hurt, I am so sorry that I did this to you. And the person who has a really low emotional intelligence and EQ that's like below the ground, they're gonna go, so what?
Right.
So what? So you've got all kinds of people. So you need to know your audience and you need to know who you're dealing with. If your boss is a tyrant and you go up to your boss and say, you're a tyrant, you might not have a job and you might not be your
Yeah.
boss any longer.
There's a way to navigate all of this in the best possible way for you so that you get the results you need
Yeah, there's not a one cookie cutter type answer for all situations.
for boundary setting. What else do you teach or what else do you suggest to your clients with regard to calmness or to not having anxiety, not anticipating having anxiety?
Sometimes
However,
anxiety comes from good things. Sometimes you're anxious because of good things. People who get married, they're happy to get married. They're anxious because getting married is anxiety provoking.
of
People who are
course,
becoming parents, you get pregnant and you're really happy about having a baby, but then you start worrying, what if my kid doesn't like me? You know what, like weird question like, what if my child grows up and looks like my uncle? You know, whatever. And you start having all those thoughts. So some good things could produce anxiety, and there's a anxiety stress questionnaire, like, and some anxiety is not a bad thing. Sometimes people who are anxious are actually very accomplished because they use their anxiety as an engine to get things done. And
it's true.
the
If
person
there's
that's really
stress,
mellow and right, and the person that's really mellow and easygoing will be like, tomorrow sounds good. Oh no, next week sounds better. Like,
right?
and
They're
so
always going to
they
push
don't
that
have
envelope.
they're like, there's no fire on the lake. Let's not worry about this. If it can be done tomorrow, why not do it in 5 days from now? And so anxiety can make everything seem urgent. And so you got to balance it out. You cannot, not everything is an emergency, but sometimes having a fire under your butt might get things done faster.
Speaking of getting a fire under your butt and getting things done faster, I'm amazed that you already have a second book out or that it's about to be published. Would you share with us your children's book, which is a picture book called Gino and the Moonlight Sea?
Yeah, and it's bilingual. You've got on each page you have English and you have French. And
Cool.
all right, why not French?
Why not?
Because I have a lot of
May
French
we?
friends and I know a lot of French people.
May we?
And they're like, every time, and French people are not the best with English. Every time I write something, they're like, do you have a French version of that?
That's very funny.
And I was like,
It's true.
yeah, the French government actually in the 80s came out with an organization, or I don't know if it was already in place, to replace every English word out of the French language. So
Okay.
they would, instead of saying weekend, like in French you could say weekend, now
Right.
you have to say fin de semaine. Or instead of saying
Oh,
email,
I
you
see,
were
to
supposed to say
preserve the
courriel.
language.
So they were like trying to purify it and take the English out. It worked poorly, but people were
Yeah.
getting fined. Like journalists and magazines, they had named like a magazine. It was called Interview,
Mhm.
which is an English word,
Yes.
and then suddenly they became Entretien. So I think it's funny. But anyhow, yeah, I wrote that book in French and English because I wanted them to not use a dictionary to read it, and so it's a story of me talking to my son about when he was born. And it's
Oh,
yes, and it's really short book. It's less than 40 pages, but it's illustrated and it's a short story, and it makes a beautiful Christmas present or Hanukkah present. And it's going to be out.
go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's going to be out when?
It's already out on Kindle right now, and it's
Oh,
going to be
great.
out in print next week or the week after.
Oh, beautiful. So tell me the story about Gino in the Moonlight Sea. If it's about Gino's birth, and if you don't mind me sharing with the audience, you adopted Gino. Is he 10?
He's 10 years old, yeah.
10 years ago. Unbelievable. And Gino is an amazing young man, very entertaining, very bright, very, can I say he's precocious?
Actually, unfortunately, he is.
And lovely. I mean, he's just a riot to be around. So smart, so engaging. So you've done a fantastic job with him as his dad. And I'm really curious to read the storyline for this book. I know it's a picture book. I love pictures. It's good. But tell me a little bit more. Can you give us a little clue about it? And then what's the deeper meaning of it?
Okay, so first of all, the illustrations have a lot of spiritual behind it. You have angels, and you've got the moon, and you've got, the hummingbird in one page, and you've got, it's the idea that everybody who is family to you, it was meant to be. Like family is meant to be. You're meant to be related. Sometimes you meet people and they're your friends, but they're meant to be in your circle. And sometimes you go through surrogacy to have a child, or you adopt. But you were meant to have a family and to be a father or to be a mother. And it also talks about the connection that people have, which is a deep connection, which is more about, there are so many kids in the world right now and people that can have children, but we're still pushing on people the idea of procreation when many kids are in the, waiting to be adopted. And I think that's kind of, it's sad when you think about it. And then I think there's nothing more beautiful than having a child, and for them, not for you, for them, because you want to raise them to become a human being who is happy to be alive and happy to be in society. For them, not for you. You're not pushing your dreams and your hopes on them. You want to help them reach their own goals and be their own happy person, right? And so being a guide, a mentor, father, an uncle, whatever, and being part of the life of someone and being there for them and loving them and encouraging them. There's nothing better than that, I think, because you get to give to someone and see them grow and thrive. And I feel like if you can be that person for someone else in your life, it helps you also. If you have a wounded inner child, it helps you heal that inner child, because you get to do for someone else what you wish somebody had done for you.
It's true. So in Gino and the Moonlight Sea, is it that Gino was born on a moonlit night and that he was born near
Gino
the
was
ocean?
born at no. Gino was born at 5:57 in the afternoon on a Saturday. No moon out. It was a beautiful sunny day. It was in June. 10 months before my son was born, I dreamt that I was swimming. I was swimming in the ocean, and there you could see the reflection of the moon, and that I swam in the ocean, and I grabbed a baby out of the ocean, a little boy with blonde hair.
No way.
Yeah. That's a true story. And I remember that I woke up, and it was such a vivid dream. I thought, I'm gonna have a son, and he's gonna be blonde, and he's gonna be this, and he's gonna be that. And I remember telling someone, and the person's like, JP, you make such a great dad, but you're like, and of course, it was like 10 months later, my son was born, and my son is blonde, and is exactly the way I knew he was gonna be, which is really a weird thing to say, but I knew my son before my son was even born, right?
Yeah, I understand.
And then, it's a story of that. It's a story about me telling him at night before he goes to bed about how I knew he was going to be my son, and he was meant to be my son.
In your dream. That's beautiful. This was the best part. This is the juicy stuff, JP. How sweet. I love this. Well, everybody has to run out and get one of these books. I think that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
That did all, I will vouch that all came true in about that time frame. So that certainly happened. I don't know that you shared the dream with me then, but that was about the time you were very serious about adopting a child.
Well, I remember celebrating my birthday with you. I was
just before Gina was born, right?
Correct. And we went to that Argentinian restaurant near Hollywood over there.
In Hollywood, yeah.
In Hollywood, we went to that. It was a good restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. That's why I celebrated 42nd or 43rd birthday. And and you give me a frame as a birthday gift to put the picture of my kid inside of it. You remember that?
No, I don't remember that part.
Okay. But
That sounds great. I believe, no,
you
that
were
sounds like
there, I was
something I
there, we
would
were
do.
both there. Yeah, yeah, it was great. It was great.
I
It was
remember
me,
the
you,
birthday.
Steve, and Stefan.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
And
so,
then
yeah,
Gino arrived
and then
shortly
Gino,
after that.
right, that's what happened.
It's beautiful. Well, I'm excited to read and to see Gino and the Moonlight Sea, and I'm really glad your dream came true. Of course, you knew it would because it felt so real. But I'm really glad to be able to experience your parenthood and Gino's upbringing in whatever way that I can. It's always an amazing experience, actually, just hanging out with the two of you. So
And
and Steve too, of course.
yes, and then if you want a real, more consequential book, it's a bit bigger. There's a boy called JP that's also
Yes.
available online, and you can get it. And then in January, I think I'm going to come out with a third book. I just finished it, and I'm going to publish it. But
Okay.
it's also another story, and we'll talk about it later.
Okay. Well, we'll have to tune in again then. How can people get in touch with you? How can they book you for a session? Does insurance handle this? What's the best way to reach you? All those sorts of things. Remind us
Well,
again how to get the books.
the books are on platforms, online platforms. You can order it. It comes paperback or hardcover, whatever. As far as getting in touch with me, if you live in the state of California or Texas, I'm licensed for both those states. Then I have my private practice is handled by Alma, ALMA. So if you
Right.
go on Hello Alma and you look me up, I will be on there. It's a platform that does my billing and my insurance and all that. I pay them. They don't pay me, but they just, connect me with people, and I do telehealth. I'm also on BetterHelp. I've been on BetterHelp 5 years. I like the platform because I like the people that I'm dealing with. And also I'm on Growth Therapy, GROW Therapy, which is another platform as well. And if you look me up on LinkedIn, or if you go on Facebook and look up the Wandering Clinician, the page, and then my podcast, I have a podcast, nothing like yours, but if you go on Apple, on Spotify, it's called The Wandering Clinician.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you type up my name, JP de Oliveira Estevo. I just find out I even have an IMDb now. So it's like you
Right.
go on there and you can find me on online. You type up my name will pop up, my profile will pop up, my phone number, my email, my shoe size, everything is available online. So it's pretty great.
Isn't that funny? Well, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that all of us can navigate these times together in a clean and healthy and calm way. We'll get through it. We're obviously getting through it, and the best is yet to come.
Right. All you have to say is no, not today, Satan.
All right, JP. Classic. All right. Thank you so much.